69 seconds. The fight lasted 69 seconds, and everybody is trying to figure out what happened. Now, there's two ways to look at those 69 seconds. There's the side of the crowd where everybody was looking forward to this fight. I mean, there was so much hype, so much buildup, only for it to end just as fast as it started. I mean, there was this frustration that left this bad taste in everybody's mouth. That the fact that it ended so fast, it was just this feeling of disappointment. But then there's the other side. There's the side of the fighter, Conor McGregor, who spent months preparing for this moment. He spent months training, following a diet, getting back in fighting shape, cutting the remaining weight. And while he's doing all of this, he's promoting the fight, doing all these interviews. I mean, he was the main event. The entire card was on his shoulders. And all of that work that he put into that and dedicated and devoted to was gone in 69 seconds. Now, as a former MMA fighter, I'm going to take you into the world of a fighter so you can really understand why Conor McGregor broke under pressure at UFC 329. Now, notice how everybody was so focused on the injury. Nobody even took into consideration that he was gone for the 5 years. Nobody mentioned it. Everybody was so caught up on the fact that he was taking off his shoes and that he stumbled. Everybody was noticing that as he was walking out to the cage, he wasn't charismatic Conor and smiling. And the fact that his demeanor was so different meant that he was hiding something. So he must have been injured. He must have been trying to hide the injury. And they're noticing all these different ways that he was just different. Where the truth is, it was the time away. The injury happened in the cage, and the injury happened because it's a completely different feeling. You can do the mental rehearsals, but it feels completely different live. It's one of the reasons fighters have a hard time leaving. It's why they overstay their welcome so much, because nothing compares to the feeling of fighting. Now, I want you to imagine this. You're in the locker room, backstage. You know you're in the red corner, which means you're the second fighter to go out. And you know you're the main event, so you're the last fight to go out, which means you're sharing this locker room with all the other fighters that are in the red corner. So that means you're feeling that anxiety that's in the air. You're feeling the anxiety of the fighters, of their corners, of yourself, and of your corner. And throughout the night, you're seeing all these other fighters that are dealing with the same thing that you are in their own way. And you see their corner encouraging them, trying to keep them clear and focused. You see them go out, and you can see it on the screen, but you can also hear it all around you because you're in the arena. And some of them come back with a victory, which is great. It's beautiful to be around that energy, and they're all encouraging when they come back. But you have to remind yourself, I can't let that get to my head. My fight didn't happen yet. Although I know a victory is set for me, I have to be present in order to fulfill that vision. And then some of the fighters will go out and you will see them have a loss. Some of them don't even make it back. Some of them have to be carted out, depending on how they got finished. But the ones that come back, you see their energy is very different. Their corner, pretty quiet. You see that they're devastated by this loss. They put so much time into this moment and it's gone. And you see them feeling crushed. And some of them break down. Some of them, like, it's heavy to take a loss. So the fact that they just finally have a moment to kind of process what's happening, you see them crying in the corner. And although you feel for them because you understand all the sacrifices that led to this and what that feels like, you have to remind yourself that's not me. I still have the ability to win. So although I feel for this person, I do not relate to this right now. And then it comes time for you to go. The locker room is empty. All the fights happen. And now the room that was just so loud in all these different ways, some from victories, some from losses, now is dead silent. It's just you in your corner until you hear, Red, it's time. And then you start to go right by the curtains. And you hear your opponent going first because you're in the red corner. You're the second fighter to go. And as they go, the music's playing, you hear the crowd getting loud. And then some people may see you behind the curtain. And people know that it's time for you to go. And then it gets quiet and the crowd starts to roar. And this is one of those moments that you visualized. And you imagine all the different ways that this could be, but now it's here. Now it's live. And then there's the camera in front of you. And then there's the one person telling you, okay, song's about to drop, it's time to go. And then you hear your song start, and you know the time is coming, whenever the beat drops, for you to walk. And as you're walking, you can feel now the energy of the crowd. All the energy you felt backstage of everybody, of their anxiety, now you feel tenfold because you feel there's this rush. The best way I could describe it is like there's this hurricane of energy. There's this excitement, but then there's that anxiousness of the people that want to see you win, the anxiousness of the people that want to see your opponent win. There's the family, the friends. It's just all this energy. And all you can hear is your music and just all this sound. And as you're walking out, you're doing your best to keep yourself grounded and present and not get lost in all of this that's happening. And as you go, say goodbye to your corner, get Vaselined up, and as you walk in, you start to feel the energy just get more concentrated because the cage is like the eye of the storm. It's the eye of the hurricane. All this energy is happening. Now that you're in the cage, you could also feel the anxiousness of your corner, the anxiousness of their corner, your anxiousness, your opponent's anxiousness, even the referee who doesn't want to make a mistake. You're feeling all of this and you're just in the eye of it. And you're doing your best to remain calm and present through all of this. Now, as you visualized the fight leading up to it, the mind does this tricky thing. And this is why the 5 years away was the most important thing that I feel should have been number one on the list. When you're imagining the fight, the mind does this thing where it forgets all logic and you forget that there's rounds. Whether it's a 3-round fight, 5-round fight, it feels like the entire fight is happening in 1 second. And you're seeing all the possible ways that you could lose. And then you try to balance it out to see the ways that you can win. And you're having all these thoughts and sometimes even dreams and visions of ways that you can lose and sometimes ways that you can win. And you're training your mind to see it in your favor. But time gets lost. You even forget that there's 5 minutes in the round. It just feels like everything is happening all at once. And it reaches its peak in the beginning when your name is being announced because the anticipation keeps building up, building up. That eye of the hurricane gets faster and faster and faster and faster. And then your name gets announced. Your opponent now meets you in the middle. And now it's time for the fight to start. Everybody leaves the cage, the doors close, and then the referee looks at your opponent. Are you ready? Then the referee looks at you. Are you ready? Yeah. And that's the exact split moment that the mind has been replaying this whole time. And that's where complete fight or flight is going to kick in. Some fighters freeze and they can't really open up, and they kind of have this adrenaline dump because there's so much energy. They get overwhelmed and they kind of just they get exhausted just from holding all of that in. And then there's the fighters that are knockout artists, like Conor. When someone's a knockout artist, their way of dealing with all of that energy is just facing it head on and just directing that energy towards the opponent, just trying to get it done and over with. Now, I want you to think about this. Which fight do you think was bigger? His fight with Jose Aldo or this fight with Max Holloway? And if you compare them, the Jose Aldo fight was way bigger. It was hyped up way more. It was for a title. And it was against somebody who is in the Hall of Fame. And he was on a tear at that time. The difference between that fight and this fight was with Max Holloway was the time away. When he was active, he was able to embrace fear. What we saw in this fight was he reacted to the fear. When you're in this eye of the hurricane, when that moment is there, the moment that you visualize so much is right in front of you, that's the peak of the fear. That's the peak of the energy. And your relationship to how it feels in your body is how you're going to respond. Because that is what we saw that was drastically different. When he fought Jose Aldo, he came out very calm, very relaxed. He was smiling. He was nice and loose. Jose Aldo came out rushing, and we saw what happened. In this fight with Max Holloway, it flipped. Max was calm when he came out. He was just circling, taking his steps. Feeling the same exact way. Max was still feeling the peak of the moment. He was just active, so he knew how to regulate himself. With Conor being away for 5 years, he reacted to the fear and tried to just like get the feeling out. The same way Jose rushed him, he tried to rush Max just to get the feeling out because it was just so uncomfortable to have this all built in. And that's what allowed him to, it wasn't so much the kick, it was just how he threw it. Every time he did it backstage, he did it in place. When he did it in the fight, all the energy, he ran and jumped so far. That is what had his knee blow out. He didn't practice it in that way. But when you're reacting to fear, think about any time you've ever reacted to fear. You're not thinking clearly. You're not thinking logically because you're so caught up in the emotion of what's so uncomfortable about this fear that you just want it to get away. And in getting lost in the feeling of the fear, that's what made him lose sight of what he was doing. He was so caught up on what he was trying to get away from, he lost sight of where he was going. He's very aware that he got hijacked by fear. It's what happens to all of us throughout day-to-day life. Whenever we react to something, we're getting hijacked by the feeling of the overwhelm that's happening in that moment. And we're believing whatever we're imagining is happening right then and there. The difference is when it comes to fighting, a fighter is regulating himself to show himself everything he's imagining is not happening right now. And he's in control of being present in the face of fear, which allows him to make a different choice and have a different outcome than what the mind may be predicting. And as you start to rehearse different scenarios other than the one that the fear is getting the mind to see, that's what you hear fighters saying, oh, I saw this happening. It was one of the scenarios. But you have to be present to remind yourself, hey, I'm thinking this is happening, but that's just one option. If you're able to utilize that level of presence, it's all tied to the feeling in your body. Noticing how fear shows up in your body is the moments that you get to use to change the beliefs that are being presented to you. Anytime we experience fear, this is the very thing I've done with myself and I do with my clients. Whenever there's a moment we're reacting to something, there's a belief that's coming up, a limiting belief that we don't want to happen, and we're reacting to that. And then there's an uncomfortable, overwhelming feeling that we're reacting to and we don't want to happen. If you're able to notice, how do you feel in those moments? What's happening in your body when you react? You're forcing yourself to slow down, get out of your mind, and check in. What's the sensations that are happening? Because that is the notification for the moment that you can change the belief that's happening, the belief that's keeping you in autopilot, the moment that your mind is hijacking you and taking you out of the present moment. When you change how you feel in those moments, give your body the feeling of safety. That's why when you see fighters come out and they're stone faced, they're regulating their nervous system and their body. That's why they look emotionless. They're regulating all the emotions that are happening to show themselves, to show their mind by relaxing their body. Hey, what we're afraid of is not happening right now. We're still good. We're still here. We still have a choice. We still have control over ourselves in a very uncontrollable situation. And that's something you can do in day to day life, especially if you're in a position, and leaders I've found deal with this the closest with fighters, which is why I enjoy working with them, because I get that mindset, I get that position where there's constant decisions you have to make, and there's a lot on the line with every decision. And if you would like to learn about how to apply this to yourself, about how to regulate yourself in the face of emotions as intense as fear, and rewire your mind and your beliefs, there's a booking link in the description. Click on that. We'll have a one-on-one call. We could go into more details as to how that could be tailored and custom specifically just for you, because this is a person-to-person approach. This is not something that, hey, one fits all. You have to really pay attention to how you are feeling, what you are thinking, what's happening inside of you, and then we'll get to create how you're going to respond in those specific moments. So what works for one person will not work for you. It's very specific because it's tied to everything you have experienced in your life. We'll go a lot deeper with that when we get on the call. So what's next for Conor? Honestly, he's going to have a lot of time to himself. With this ACL surgery, yeah, he's going to still be able to train, but there's going to be a lot of sitting, a lot of icing. He's not going to have the same schedule. So I see him, because he's smart, I would see him taking this time to mentally rehearse everything that happened within those 69 seconds. Mentally rehearse the walkout, being backstage, just the whole night of the fight and how that felt. Because words are easily forgettable, but you never forget how something makes you feel. And the fact that he got to experience it, now he has something to go off of. Those 5 years that he was off, there was nothing that compared to the night of the fight. There was nothing that, yeah, he has his previous fights, but it's so long ago, the feeling kind of faded. It's like when you get something that you've worked so hard for, or you were so happy to get, it's happy in the moment, but I'm sure there's things you have now that it kind of just feels regular. It feels normal. The feeling faded. The same thing happens in fights. But a year, that's doable. But the best way to really maximize those 69 seconds is to really hone in how he felt. And he could rewatch it, which I'm sure he is, to spark that feeling again. And then train himself to train his body in how to respond to the feelings that came up that night, to the fear that comes up. And as he trains his body in this way, exercising that muscle of focus, yeah, I see that dominant Conor coming back. And it's going to take a whole lot of promotion because, he wants to fight Max again. Right now, nobody even wants to think about seeing him fight, let alone him fight Max again. So I'm sure he'll come up with something, but that's what I see as next for Conor, is him really approaching, training his inner state of mind, inner state of being in a very different way to find his conviction again. Because the conviction is what cuts through that thick fog of anxiety that's in the air that we were talking about in the locker room and on the way to the cage. Like that conviction within yourself cuts through that energetic hurricane. So let me know what you got out of this episode. It was fun to, revisit the world of fighting in this way, of like the mental side of things, the energetic side of things, because fighting is all of it. And it's what I love about coaching is I get to bring all of those aspects from fighting into that space and really bring it into feeling sensations and training your awareness of yourself in the face of intense emotions. So you don't lose consciousness. You're able to be here, present, to make a different choice than what you see and imagine happening as the worst case scenario. That's your power. That's your power of choice. But it takes you being here to make it. So, yeah, I love talking about this. Let me know what you think. Be sure to like, share, subscribe. And I'm wishing you an amazing day. If it's nighttime by you, I'm wishing you an amazing night. And I will catch you later.